Okay, this is lesson 29 for Algebra 2, using the quadratic formula to solve equations, and the objective is we're just going to learn how to use the quadratic formula. So before, I've taught you how to solve using Xbox, then I taught you how to take a square root, then I taught you how to complete the square, then I taught you how to graph. And then we focused a lot of time on complete the square root, which is a lot of the same steps. And then yesterday we talked about, well, what if we took all the same steps and just replaced our coefficients with a, b, and c? We learned how to derive the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, we want to use it. So that's the goal of today. Why do we use it? So thinking from before, where's my, let's look this up really quick here. So from before, when I used to do a problem like the one that's up here by the objective, I used to do complete the square, right? And I would add 6, and then I would work out the whole thing, right? And this takes a while, right? I did this earlier. This takes about 2 minutes of my life to do all of this, and I'm dealing with fractions. And who loves doing fractions in here? Does anyone like doing fractions? No, so this is kind of a lot of work, right? And we get these answers, and these actually turn out pretty good. These are 3 and -1/2, right, at the very end. So that's all the work, right? And this, for a student, this takes a long time to do on the test, right? So there's a fast way to do this using the quadratic formula. So continuing here. The steps are right here. Identify A, B, and C, and then write the quadratic formula down. You need to memorize this formula, so in order to memorize it, we should learn a song together. Okay? So this is the song. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? Let's try it together. Ready? And begin. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Everybody now! Okay, I need to hear y'all sing. Ready? X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, that's kind of weak. First period we did a lot better. But anyway, so memorize the formula because I won't give it to you on a test. And this is one of those formulas you should have like as a tool in your pocket, okay? So, real easy. Once you have the formula, input A, B, and C, and simplify. So here we go. I'll do a couple problems. So this one, here we go. Number 1. I'm going to erase number 2. Number 1. So the first thing I want to do when I do any of these quadratic problems, if I use the quadratic formula, is find A, B, and C. And I want to make sure that all of my A, B's, and C's are on one side of the equation and 0 is on the opposite side. Since that's the case already, I don't have to do any sort of like manipulation of the numbers to put them in order. Okay? So A is equal to 4, B is equal to -10, C is equal to -6, okay? And it includes the positive or negative value. Then I'm going to write down the quadratic formula. A. Okay, so you got my quadratic formula written down, and I'm plugging in my number. So x is equal to -b. B is -10, so it's going to be -10 plus or minus the square root of b squared. B squared is 10, or -10, so -10 squared is positive 100, minus 4 times a. A in this case is 4, and c is -6, right? All over 2. 2 times 4, right? Now look what I'm doing on all these values. All the A's, B's, and C's are in their own parentheses, right? Because sometimes there's a negative sign. For example, you see right here the C has a -6, right? So we want to make sure I count that. Okay, I'm going to simplify this this square root sign first. So we got -4 times 4 times -6. If I were to multiply that out, I get positive 96. So we got 100 plus 96. Bring the rest of the problem down. Negative 10 is a positive 10. And 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? Continuing, 100 plus 196, or 100 plus 96 is 196. Plus or minus, bring the rest of the problem down. Square root of 196 is 14. So it's going to be 10 plus or minus 14 all over 8. Okay? So now I'm thinking, since I don't have any square root signs, I could combine this. 10 plus 14 is 24. Okay, so we got 24 over 8. That's one of my answers. Or my other answer could be 24 or 10 minus 14, which is negative 4 over 8. I could still simplify. 24 divided by 8 is 3. And the other one is negative 1/2, right? Those are my two answers, okay? That's number 1. Now, think about what I said earlier. I actually did this problem earlier as a complete the square problem. Let me show you. Actually, okay. Remember me doing this at the beginning on the first screen?
Yes.
Aren't these the same answers?
Yep.
Yeah? So which way is right?
Either way. Both right.
They're both right. Does it matter? Which way do you prefer? Raise your hand if you prefer complete the square still. Raise your hand if you could prefer quadratic formula. Yeah, this is easier, right? Because am I dealing with any fractions here? No. Once students get into this fraction business, it's kind of like scary, right? You have to be pretty good, and you should get pretty good at fractions because they're not going away. But a foolproof way is to use the quadratic formula. Okay? Did y'all see that? Number 2, let me do one more.
Question.
Yeah, what's up?
You know, things sometimes like problems can be like the Xbox sometimes doesn't work. Does everything work?
Yep, everything works on the quadratic formula. That's a great question. He asked, sometimes we don't use the X, or sometimes Xbox doesn't work. Yeah, use the quadratic formula, okay? That's a good question, okay? And sometimes you want to use Xbox because Xbox is faster, and I'm going to show you that later. Or sometimes you want to just do take a square root. Okay, and I'll show you the trick on that. Because sometimes that's faster, right? We're always trying to do math faster because we want to save time, want to be efficient, and we want to be accurate. Okay, and we don't want to be doing a lot of extra steps because we have other things we want to do in our life sometimes. Okay. Anyways, watch me do number 2. One more. Number 2. Okay, number 2 is a little bit tricky, right? Because I have my constants are not together here yet. So I know that this is my A, this is my B, but my C is not negative 5. Actually, I have to combine the negative 5 and the 3. So let's move my constants together. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides so that we have negative 10b squared minus 8b minus 8 is equal to 0. So A is equal to negative 10, B and C is equal to negative 8. Okay? So plug in my quadratic formula in. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so negative b, our b in this case is negative 8, so it's going to be negative 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared is 64 minus 4 times a is negative 10, times c, which is negative 8 also, all over 2 times a. 2 times a is negative 20. Okay. Simplifying, we got 8 plus or minus the square root of 64. And then we got negative 4 times negative 10 is positive 40. Positive 40 minus, or times negative 8 is negative 320. All over negative 20. Sorry, I'm running into a little space here. I'm going to move this actually out of the way. This answer here. Move that over here. Okay. All right, continuing here. 64 minus 320 is negative 256. So we got 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 256 all over negative 20. Square root of 256 is 16. Square root of negative sign is I, so it's going to be 8 plus or minus 16i all over negative 20. And then I'm asking myself what goes into all 8, 16, and negative 20. 4 does, right? So we got, and I don't like this negative sign here, so I'm actually going to factor out a negative 4 out of all of these. So we're going to have negative 2 plus or minus 4i all over 5. Okay, and that's your final answer. Okay, kind of snuck it in over there on the bottom. All right, that's it. Yes?
What would you do if there's not a perfect square?
Then you leave it alone. Yeah, so remember that lesson on how to simplify radicals? You have to simplify them if you can. If you can't, you just leave them alone. You leave them there. Okay, and this example is real nice because 256 is a perfect square. But sometimes you might get like square root of 200, which is 100 times 2, so you would factor out the 100, or the square root of 100, so it would be 2 rad, or 10 rad 2. Okay, but that's how you do this one, okay? Any questions? Okay, a lot of stuff. Let's have you talk about it first before you write, okay? Because I always like you talking, so. 1 solid 2 is about number 1, 2 solid 1's. So we'll do a couple of problems here. Because they do take a little while, and I want to spend some time grading. So number 1 here is a little too easy. I don't want to do number 1. Let's do number 4, okay? Because it just has a quick element of challenge here. So we got 6n squared minus 2 is equal to negative 3n. What's our a? A is 6b. Positive 3. There's no positive 3 up there. What are we supposed to do? Ah, good. See? Good job. So we have to add 3n to the other side. So we got 6n squared plus 3n minus 2 is equal to 0, right? We always want to make sure our a, b, and c is in order. On one side, it doesn't matter what side it's on. Just want it on one side. So, okay, again, what's a? B? Positive 3c. Negative 2. Okay? Okay. Let's all sing the song. Ready? Here's the first note. X is equal to... Good, excellent, okay? And trust me, the song helps you remember it, so I'm not trying to make my class ridiculous. It really does help you. So, okay, so we got negative b is going to be negative what? Negative 3. Notice I'm putting negative 3 in its own parentheses. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be negative 3, so it's going to be 3 in its own parentheses. Plus or minus square root of b squared. What's b squared, everyone? 9 minus 4 times a again is 6. C is negative 2. So you're plugging these in. Each letter has its own parentheses. You have to do that. Otherwise, you will run the risk of getting the wrong answer because of a sign. Okay. 2a is going to be 2 times 6. Right? In this case, it'll be 12. Then we start simplifying, so I'll help you out. You can go ahead of me if you want. So we got negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9. Then we have to think negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. Negative 24 times negative 2 is positive 48. All over 2a, which is 2 times 6, which is 12. Okay, finish it up. Give you about a minute to finish this one. Just a quick mistake. That's okay. This is a place to make mistakes. So we have negative 3 plus or minus rad 57 all over 12. Okay, now we know 57 we can't simplify, right? So because 57 is like 3 times 19. So I can't simplify that. But what's the coefficient in front of the rad 57? It's a 1, okay? We assume it's a 1, okay? So what number goes into negative 3, 1, and 12? You always have to have all 3 numbers be able to be simplified. Is there anything?
No.
Does 3 go into 1? No, it doesn't. So since we can't, I know that 3 and 12 could do it, but that 1 kind of messes things up. So we just leave it alone. So this is really our answer right here, okay? So some of you went ahead and you made the negative 3 a 1 and the 12 a 4, that's incorrect. You following me? Did y'all get that? Okay, good. Next one. Number 5. Number 5. This is our last one. Okay, what are you noticing on number 5? It's not equal to 0, okay? So, should I move everything to the left-hand side? Should I move all this stuff to the left-hand side then? No, let's just, it doesn't matter. So, I like having a positive a, so this is already positive 5. So, I am just going to move this negative 15. So, I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Where's the b? There is no b, right? So, we assume it's what again? Yeah? 0, right? Okay, good. Go. This one you could do by yourself. Go. Next, look up here. Here we go. So I saw you should all be at this point. 0 plus or minus rad negative 200, right? Over 10. Yes, do you all agree with me? At some point we were there. Okay, square root of 200 is like saying 100 times 2. Square root of 100 is 10. So this is, and the square root of a negative sign is I, so it's going to be 10I rad 2. That's how we simplify that section. And then we got plus or minus the 0. And then we got this 10 here. Okay, and we're thinking what number goes into 10, 10, and 0? What numbers go into 0? All numbers do, right? What's 0 divided by 1? 0. What's 0 divided by 10? Still 0, right? It doesn't affect it, right? The only number that we can't divide is by 0. So 10 goes into each of these. So this is like saying 0 plus or minus I rad 2 over 1, but that's redundant. And the 0 is redundant, so really our answer is going to be that plus or minus I rad 2. Okay? Y'all see that? So some of you got it correct. Please fix it. Now, check this out. If you use the quadratic formula, you took the long way around. Can I show you a shortcut? Yeah. You already know the shortcut. You should. Was there a b?
No.
Okay, once you see that there's no b, don't do anything but take a square root. So what I would have done here, once I saw this here on my paper, as a math student, there's no b, so I'm going to take a square root. So I would subtract 10, so it's going to be negative 10 is equal to 5a squared. Divide by 5, so it's going to be negative 2 is equal to a squared. Take the square root of both sides. So it's going to be I rad 2, or plus or minus I rad 2 is equal to a. So a is equal to plus or minus I rad 2. Right? Which way is faster, the quadratic formula or the take a square root? Square root, right? So, again, is it wrong to go that way with the quadratic formula? No. It just, know your shortcuts, right? Okay. Who wants to save time in here? All of us, right? You all want to save time. So, you know, when you see there's no b, b is 0, take a square root. You got it? Okay, that's it. That concludes our lesson for today. So why don't you just turn off your iPads and your apps for a moment.